Kanye West, known to most as the hip-hop star with an ego too big to measure, but for many, they know nothing of his past and his career. While only at the young age of 3, Kanye's parents, Donda and Ray, split. He lived in a middle-class neighborhood in Chicago with his mother, visiting his father over the summers. One summer, his mother moved to China for a year with Kanye in tow, and upon his return, he was drawn to the hip-hop scene, even befriending the producer No ID. When Kanye graduated from high school, he was offered a scholarship to Chicago's American Academy of Art, but eventually dropped out to pursue music altogether. Before Kanye began making his own music, he was producing music for local artists and was using colorful soul samples sped up. It was in 2001 Kanye moved to New York and ended up in the right hands, Jay-Z's to be exact. It was then that he produced This Can't Be Life. His reputation wasn't cemented until his production on The Blueprint, one of the most highly acclaimed rap albums of all time, Jay-Z. He was eager to become a main player in the music industry and be a rapper himself, but he lacked the gangsta credentials, Gucci loafers and the pink polos. He pleaded with record labels to sign him, but only one signed him, Rockefeller, but only as a producer.
One fateful night on his way home from a recording session in a California studio, he got into a head-on collision, ultimately leaving him with a shattered jaw. It was from this he wrote and first performed Through the Wire, with his jaw wired shut, I might add. While in a recuperative state in LA, he wrote and finished most of his debut album, The College Dropout. It leaked online, prompting him to revise and improve it. Once released, he sold 2.6 million copies, propelling Kanye into stardom. With this album, Kanye tore into hip-hop by shattering the idea that you had to be a gangsta to be a rapper. West was nominated for 10 Grammys and won 3. Best Rap Song and Rap Album. Shortly after TCD's release, he founded Good Music, standing for Getting Out Our Dreams. Spending around $2 million, Kanye took about a year to craft his second album by hiring John Bryan and an orchestra to see just how far he could take hip-hop. With late registration, Kanye won 3 more Grammys and debuted at #1 on the Billboard Hot 200. It was around this time Kanye appeared on national television on NBC during a broadcast to raise money for Hurricane Katrina victims. Due to frustration with President Bush for not visiting a devastated New Orleans right away, Kanye proclaimed on live TV,
"George Bush doesn't care about black people."
This wouldn't be Kanye's only media storm. After his first 2 albums, Kanye was inspired to make hip-hop more anthemic in the likes of rock and roll and house music, so it could be played in arenas and stadiums. Later coined Graduation, Kanye's third album debuted on the same day as 50 Cent's album, Curtis. In a battle for hip-hop, West sold under 1 million copies in the first week, demolishing 50 Cent sales, essentially killing gangsta rap and paving the way for the showman of hip-hop.
Shortly after being crowned with killing gangsta rap, Kanye's mother, Donda, tragically died of a heart attack following a cosmetic surgery in November 2007. It was only months later that his fiancée, Alexis Pfeiffer, broke things off of him. 1 year after his mother's death, Kanye released his controversial 4th album, 808s and Heartbreak. While breaking away from rap, Kanye sang with an auto-tuned voice through emotional grief and heartbreaking pain. With this album, West revolutionized hip-hop altogether, expanding the genre and pushing the envelope heavily with the use of auto-tune and the idea of emotional vulnerability in a once tough guy environment. Shortly after, in 2009, Kanye came up on stage during Taylor Swift's acceptance speech for Best Female Video Award. He took the microphone and proclaimed,
Yo, Taylor, I'm really happy for you. I'm gonna let you finish. But Beyonce had one of the best videos of all time. One of the best videos of all time.
This would ultimately push public perception of Kanye to the deep end. After the controversial incident at the VMAs, West retreated to Hawaii for exile. In 2010, he came back to life with what most consider to be his magnum opus, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. In a time where public perception of him was poor, the critical reception of the album was unreal, with Pitchfork even calling it an instant greatest hit. My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy was a combination of Kanye's best and his worst, all packed neatly into one, while dealing with the themes of excess, consumerism, and the American dream. Kanye and Kim Kardashian had been friends for a fair amount of time before dating and eventually marrying. April of 2012, Kim had gotten married to Chris Humphries, and Kanye released his single Theraflu, which is now known as Cold, which contained his feelings about that marriage. In it, he sang, "And I'll admit I fell in love with Kim around the same time she had fallen in love with him." Later that month, there were rumors of the two dating, and it wasn't until a little while later they made their first public appearance in New York. In October of 2013, Kanye and Kim got engaged, although they wouldn't end up getting married until May 24th in 2014. June 15th of that same year, their first child, North, was born. In December of 2015, they had their second child, Saint, and most recently, they had their third child, Chicago, in January of this year.
Following the birth of his first child, Kanye released quite possibly the most controversial album of his discography, Yeezus. Through a narcissistic and paranoid track list, he incorporated many genres including the likes of acid house, punk, and electro. This was his most experimental album, and although public response of the album was considerably poor, critical acclaim was very high. While considered subpar at first, Yeezus is now hailed by many of being ahead of its time. Lou Reed can be quoted saying, "Each track is like making a movie. The guy really is talented." Closing in on the release of his seventh studio album, The Life of Pablo, which released February 14, 2016, Kanye created yet another media storm. He was in headlines for many controversial tweets and also claimed to be $53 million in debt. Regarding the album, The Life of Pablo was another change in direction for Kanye, and with no surprise, another commercial success. Using gospel, trap, and dancehall styles, West created a compilation of the braggadocious and the sad. He later embarked on the St. Pablo tour, using Floating Stage as his centerpiece. Following the Paris robbery of his wife, he postponed further dates on the tour. After his infamous rant at the Sacramento show in November, West canceled all further dates on the tour, and eventually, after that, he was admitted to the UCLA Medical Center under psychiatric observation. Following Kanye's release from the medical center, he's been lurking in the shadows. Sahi the Prince, who's a good music signee and collaborator, has since confirmed Kanye's been scheming something behind the scenes. While it's unknown what he's been cooking up, one thing's for sure that we'll all be eating soon.